Hello, folks. It is your pal Bill back to make my second video. I guess kind of my first real video. The first one was an intro. Thank you to everybody that watched it, and I had a few people say some nice things. I appreciate that, and I just want to say that as I'm doing this, I'm always going to try and be as sincere as I can, and like I said, not trying to ever really alienate people. I want to give some fruitful food for thought from the way I see things, and hope that maybe it rubs off on people if they agree and they think, oh, maybe I didn't think about things like that. So again, I appreciate everybody that checked it out. I had some people subscribe. That's awesome. If you guys dig this, like it, share it, subscribe it, all the typical shit that YouTube people say. I'm just another Me Too guy throwing my hat in the ring. I honestly don't know a whole lot of friends and people within my bubble that do this, so I thought maybe in my neck of the woods I'd be someone to put something out there. But anyways, I have a lot to say. My brain is constantly always going, and I've been putting a lot of thought into how do I start this, because I want to try and present things in a way that kind of flows for the most part, so that you can, kind of see, what my thought process is and why I think the way I think, and, see whether you, find any merit in that. But it's been really hard to figure out where to start, because I don't want to put the cart before the horse and not make things make sense. And, there's some different levels of things that I'll be able to kind of explain that are in parallel levels that all connect to things. But, there's a lot of individual things that need to be kind of talked about, to get people talking and thinking. This is life. And I don't know. I've never come to the conclusion that we're promised anything beyond this. Everybody's got their own thoughts on that, and at some point in some videos we'll talk about that, but I don't want to get into any of that stuff now. So what I landed on was to start with just some fundamentals, like embracing what we are. We are human beings. We're human beings. We need to really embrace certain things that are truths in our existence. And I think this is a good place to start, because it kind of, if you expand off of these things, maybe you kind of open your mind and think about them a little on a bigger scale. But I wanted to start with humbleness and humility, and that is a very important thing, and it's a very important part of the human condition and the human experience that we are able to control, because we can put up blocks in our heads, in our minds. We can take influences from others around us that say things that we want to hear to justify and close our minds to things. But I feel like at this point in time, humbleness and humility is looked down on, which is strange to me. I think that it probably always has been to some extent, and I don't know which way the scales tip in one direction or the other. I think that those things are associated with weakness, and I don't think that they're weak things. I think that they're actually some of the strongest things, because that's how you come to your own self-truths, is to be able to be humble, um, be able to be humiliated, and it sucks. Nobody likes it. I don't like any time that I'm humiliated. I try and keep myself out of situations where I will be by trying to be knowledgeable about the things I talk about, or at least try to make sense of my thought process. And, we're at a time where, like, strength is being projected, and there's just so many different aspects of strength, and I think that so much of the strength is projected is just that, is projected. It's not real. It's fake, because I think that without the humbleness and the humility, you don't have the strength to be strong, to be a leader, to influence others. You have to have humility. You have to be able to admit that you don't know everything and that you make mistakes. And I'm sure that, along the way in these video series, I will, and people will correct me. And, if I'm straight up wrong and I can't really justify my position, then I'll admit it. And everybody should have that type of humbleness and humility. I kind of just will be very honest about my life, and like, I love my kids, and my big focus is to be a good dad to them and provide for them well. And it's hard. It's really hard to get by. I try and do everything on one income, which is a lot, and I don't want my boys to be lacking in anything. So, I'll put myself last all the time, and that's fine, because I care more about them growing and being happy and satisfied, and especially in the times that we're living in right now, where I can't envision a future for them a year out, 2 years out, 5 years out. My kids are 12 and 9, so in 5 years my oldest is going to be ready to graduate high school, and I feel like at this time I should be talking to him about professions and try and see what he's interested in, besides his typical sports stuff, and he can always carry on with that in parallel to his education. But it's like, I don't know, what's college going to be like? Is college going to be a thing? A lot of these professions are projected by 2027 to be wiped out by AI. A lot of white collar stuff, so naturally you try and steer somebody towards blue collar type of stuff and hands-on type of work, which is awesome. Trades, but then those markets are going to be flooded with people and stuff. So it troubles me to not be able to look at the future. So right now, going back to what I was saying before, not go off on a tangent, because those are things for other videos, because I have, thoughts and takes on all that. But, I will admit that I struggle a lot, and I just try and do my best for my kids and try and bring them as much happiness now as I can, because, this is the best time of their life. I don't know, I look back on my childhood, I didn't have the responsibilities and stresses and stuff, and little things that, I can look back on now that I would get upset about as a kid are just silly and trivial. But I don't know, I feel like childhood should be nurtured, and not that my parents were awesome. I had, every family's got stuff that they got to deal with, and I'm not exempt from any of that. But you take those things and you grow, and some things are really embarrassing, and you are humbled by them, things that other people have done or how they became. But humbleness and humility is important, and it's important to trying, if you aspire to be a well-rounded human being, you have to accept these things. But there's certain things that you need to accept, and here's my food for thought before I end this video. Things you can't control. You can't control when you're born. You can't control the fact that you're born. You can't control who you are born to. And you can't control where you are born. I don't know anybody that I've ever met in my entire existence that's been able to identify that they've been able to choose any of those things and not be full of shit if they ever did say that, because you just, as a human, that's a fundamental, and I've used those things to shape the way I think about things and the way I think about human beings and us all having just one life to live. And it's up to us to be able to try to enjoy, what you can get out of life. Because like I said, I don't think, I believe that we're promised anything afterwards. And, it's a faith and hope conversation for another time. But I think that we need to enjoy the lives that we have while we are here. And we need to remember those fundamental things about being a human being that I just said, and keep those things in mind when you judge other people and when you think that you're entitled to some sort of opinion of enforcement on how somebody else lives their life, as long as they're not doing bad, terrible things. So thanks for hanging out for the second video. I hope that you liked it. I hope that you're still with me. I hope that more people will subscribe and like I said, I got a lot of things to say. I'll always be honest and sincere, and I hope that I get some engagement, more people, in the comments. Go ahead and, just free flow things that you think and things that you feel. If you want, if you have questions, you got topics that you would like to know more about, don't feel like doing the research, I'll put the effort in and, try and really break it down, in addition to all the other ones that I have planned. So thanks for sticking with me, and I will see you in the next video. See ya.